And we're here today with Josh Floyd from Ingram Spark and Sylvie Drescher from Bookshop Santa Cruz, who are going to tell us all about Ingram Spark and how it can work with your bookstores.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining and listening today. I'm very glad to have you be a part of this presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a PowerPoint that I've put together. That kind of what it does is it gives you a little bit of information on what Ingram Spark is and how we fit into the Ingram ecosystem. And then what we're really going to get into is how bookstores across the country are utilizing Ingram Spark in various ways to engage with their communities and to bring content relevant to their communities for sale and store. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start the PowerPoint. So hopefully you all can see that. Now, so Ingram Spark, an indie resource. So today we're going to learn, like I said, a little bit about Ingram Spark, how it works, how bookstores are engaging with their indie authors and their local communities using Ingram Spark. And then we're really going to dive into Bookshop Santa Cruz's publishing program. It's one of the most robust publishing programs that I've seen a bookstore offer in the country. So I'm really looking forward to having Sylvie share direct from a bookseller on how they put the program together and how it works. So first off, Ingram Spark, for those of you that are not familiar, is Ingram Book Company's print-on-demand and distribution division for independent authors and independent publishers and self-publishing authors that are looking to get their books available to the world. I know that a lot of you interact with your independent authors on a daily basis. And so what I want to do is kind of give you new ways or new thoughts of interacting with these independent authors. And the reason that I've kind of put this program together with Ingram Spark and the bookstores is that I myself used to be an independent bookstore rep for Ingram. I covered about 15 states from the Southeast to the Southwest. And while I was out in the field working with the bookstores, I had previously worked with Lightning Source as a print-on-demand representative for the publishers who were using Lightning Source to get their books into the world. And what I saw when I was out in the field was the way that independent authors were coming in and maybe taking up the time of booksellers, and some of the miscommunications and misconversations that were happening between booksellers and these independent authors. And so what we're trying to do is marry the two to create a new way of looking and dealing with these independent authors, or create a new way of looking and creating content that's relevant to your communities using Ingram and Ingram Spark. So just a little overview of how Ingram Spark works. It's free to open the account. And at the end of the session here, I'm going to give you a promo code so it's free to upload the content that you want to create. And so the way it works is you would go in and you would open an Ingram Spark account as a bookstore, as a publisher, or as a self-publisher or independent author. You can go in, it takes about 20 minutes, you'll open the account, and then the way it works is we utilize Lightning Source's print-on-demand technology to produce the books. So there again, there's no inventory, and there's no shipment of books or any stack of books or stock of books that's created until an order comes in from the market. So for instance, as an independent author, I would go in, or as an independent bookstore, I would go in, open my Ingram Spark account, and then what I would do is I would actually have my print-ready files. That's the main thing that you need to have when working with Ingram Spark. Just a little heads up, we don't offer any creative services. So there's no editing services or cover design services or anything of that nature that will take you from manuscript to, print-ready book, which is where programs like Sylvie's at Bookshop Santa Cruz come into play really majorly for these independent authors. So once I've opened my Ingram Spark account and I'm looking at it, I'm good to go. I've got my print-ready file. So I've got my cover file and I've got my interior book block file. I upload those files to my Ingram Spark account. We process them, make sure that they pass specifications for print. And then once they do pass specifications for print, then that book is ready to be ordered, either by the account holder, or if you choose to turn the book on and make it available to the market, then that book is broadcasted through Ingram to all of Ingram's retail and library partners across the world. So anytime that book is ordered, Ingram receives the order, notifies us that it needs to be printed and shipped, and the book is then print and shipped where it needs to go. So there you see distributions turned on. That's what I mentioned by making the book available to the market. So twofold on this service. You can upload your content, upload your books, so your own personal use for you to order for yourself, to be drop shipped anywhere in the world. Something, a point of note is that we own our printers in the US, UK, and Australia. So as an independent author, if I have a customer in Australia or the UK and Europe that I would like to get my books to, instead of having that, placing an order myself to have those books printed from the US to Australia, I can actually choose the Ingram Australia print facility to place that order and have those books shipped within country in Australia to the end user, or even in the UK. If I've got somebody in London that I'm trying to get books to, it's going to be a lot more cost efficient for me to actually place that order through our UK print facility and have it print and ship in country instead of overseas from the US. So it's a cool little nuance to be aware of. So the other half of the service there again is I want to turn the book on and make it available through Ingram for any retailer to purchase. What you'll then see is that book listed at iPage. The retailers are able to order it through Ingram. Ingram uses print on demand to manufacture the title, and then we print and ship the book where it needs to go. And on the back end, Ingram pays the publisher for the sale that takes place. So if I walked into Bookshop Santa Cruz and I wanted to order a title that Sylvie did not have in stock, and it was an Ingram Spark title, she could go into Ingram's iPage, place an order for the book, bring it in as a special order. Ingram would fulfill all the logistics behind it, and then the author of that book would actually get paid a publisher compensation in their Ingram Spark account for me going out into the world and buying the book. So what do I need to open the account? I mentioned it's pretty easy to do. For print books, you want to have print ready PDF files. So you want to have your cover file and you want to have your interior book block file. We also do ebook distribution through Ingram Spark. So it's a one-stop shop where you can do both your print and ebook distribution. If you want to have the book made available to the market, you will need your own ISBN for distribution. And then the only other pieces you need to open an account is a credit card and checking account and email address. So everything that we do is a credit card transaction. So anytime that me as a publisher or me as a bookstore was ordering books for myself, the transaction would take place on the credit card that I have on file. The reason we have to have the checking account information is that's for when the books sell through Ingram, that's where we directly deposit what we call the publisher compensation for the sale that took place. So it's very straightforward, there's no terms. And there again, it's all credit card based transactions. And then your metadata, which is really the most important piece to discoverability, as we all know. So there's the fields in the metadata that you'll be filling out as well once you set up your titles. And then metadata, as many of you already know, is going to be all the attributes of that book, whether it's the title, the author, the book description, the BISAC codes, the audience, your ISBN, your retail pricing. So when you go through Ingram Spark, this is really important for bookstores to note when they're talking to independent authors, because I see this conversation happen all the time. And as a publisher or author that is using Ingram Spark, you are in charge of everything about that book. So as the publisher, when I set my title up, I actually set the retail price for that book. I set the market discount, the discount that you see with an iPage that goes with that book. And I set the return status as whether returnable or non-returnable. And what I see a lot that happens in conversation between bookstores and independent authors is a bookseller will tell the independent author, hey, I really like your title. I think this would work. I think it'd be relevant to our store. And I see that it's available through Ingram, but you don't have a proper discount on there. I need a 40% discount is what the authors always say that they're told. And so as a bookseller, you're saying, hey, I need to get at least a 40% discount for me to get my regular discount and to carry the book in store. But what happens is these independent authors will go into their Ingram Spark account and they will put a 40% discount in there for where they're able to put the market discount. But what's being left out is the middleman of Ingram, the wholesaler. So even as a traditional publisher like a Penguin Random House or Simon & Schuster, I have to sell my book into Ingram at a certain discount percentage so that Ingram can turn around and sell it to their retail customers at whatever their regular discount is they get from Ingram. So if you're talking to an independent author and you are interested in carrying their books and you do want to order them from Ingram and the discount doesn't look right to you on iPage, what you want to tell that independent author is they need to set a 53% discount on that title within their Ingram Spark account so that you, the bookstore, get your regular Ingram discount that you normally get when ordering books from Ingram. And so that, like I said, that kind of gets lost in translation a lot because Ingram is not there represented in this conversation, and it's a piece that kind of gets left out. So even as a traditional publisher who's going through Ingram wholesale and not using print on demand, I still have to sell my book in at that discount so that Ingram can turn around and sell it to their customer base at the regular discount that their customers are used to getting. You see publication date and on sale date. You can actually do pre-orders through Ingram Spark as well. So you can set a title up 5-6 months in advance of its actual publication date and have the book made available to the market for print orders and back orders to be taken in as you're ramping up your marketing for the release date of that title. So that is an option that is available through Ingram Spark as well. So let's talk about how bookstores specifically are currently utilizing Ingram Spark and its services. So just like independents in every aspect, every single store seems to do it a little bit different. It just really depends on your bandwidth of staff, your willingness and capability to engage with your community, and what projects you really want to work on. So for instance, Sylvie, a little bit later from Bookshop Santa Cruz, is going to talk about how stores are using the platform to offer printing and publishing services to their local author communities, where they're actually saying, hey, we are open for business to help you create and produce your book and make it available to the world. And so they're selling that service as a new revenue stream, and Sylvie will go deeper into that. You have stores that are commissioning authors to write books of local interest to sell in store. So many of you may have a certain story or landmark in town that you say, hey, you know, if I had a book on that, I could sell the heck out of that book in mass quantity. And it may be only relevant to my community, but I know if I carried that book, I could sell it. A great example of this is Village Books in Bellingham, Washington. A few years ago, they were actually one of our first Ingram Spark customers to open up their program, and Ingram Spark's been around about 7 years. But what Village Books did is they actually had a local serial killer story that was the Green River Murderer. Don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But it was a story that was very specific to Bellingham, Washington. And they knew that if they had a book on that they could sell it like crazy. So what they did is they actually commissioned an author to write the book that they wanted and paid out the contract for that author. So once the book was completed, the author turned the book over to the store, and now the Village Books is the publisher and wholesaler for that book. So Village Books is the only place that you can get the book created. And then what happened is all the other stores in Bellingham, whether, you know, non-traditional bookstores, whether it was, you know, the Garden Shop or a boutique in town that did sell books that were relevant or specific to Bellingham, they would actually have to reach out to Village Books and say, hey, you know, I need 5 more books, or I need 10 more books for my shop. And so Village Books was then able to say, okay, you know, we can supply those books to you, whatever quantity you need. And at that point, Village Books is only paying print costs plus shipping, and then charging the stores whatever retail price they had determined or worked out with the other stores that were wanting to carry the book. Stores are working their printing programs into their consignment programs. That's another topic that Sylvie's going to address that I find very, very fascinating and exciting. The ability to create flexibility within your consignment program and offer different tiered options based on what that author is really giving you to print. So there again, Sylvie will go into that a little bit more on how they work their printing and publishing into their consignment program there. Stores are hosting author education days. So this is kind of the most hands-off approach. Is what we're seeing is stores like Bear Pond Books, Galaxy Bookshop, Eagle Eye Books, Book Passage, who you'll see in a couple slides, their program. What they have is they have really robust author education programs where they will dedicate a full day. Well, Book Passage is a full program that runs all year, but the other 3 or 4 that I mentioned, what they do is they actually do full out author education days where they'll bring in, you know, 15, 20 local authors. They'll have service providers like an Ingram rep, or maybe a book rep from another publishing company, editors and graphic designers that they know that are local, come in and do a full day of education on working with these authors. And then like what Eagle Eye Books does is when they do their author education days, they'll have 15 to 20 authors come in do a full day of programming on just teaching them about the industry and help these authors become more professional, more knowledgeable. And then a lot of times at their program, these authors already have books in hand. So then they'll actually have them kind of disperse and come back that evening and do a big author event. Well, now they've got 15 to 20 authors who are there doing their author event, who each bring, 10 to 15 people or 5 to 10 people. And before you know it, there's 40 to 60 people at their event. And what you're doing is you're seeing these authors like cross-pollinate their audience. So if I bring 5 or 10, Jeff brings 5 or 10, Alice brings 5 or 10, now we've got, 15 to 30 people in there who are learning about different authors and seeing other authors and then buying the books. Doug, who's the owner of Eagle Eye, has told me many times that they see their sales go up year over year on those Saturdays where they host those author events, because it is bringing in such a big crowd and is garnering attention. Another great thing that we have found from the bookstores who are doing these author programs is the word of mouth going out into the community. So a lot of times you have these authors come in who've probably never even been in, a lot of times never even been in your store or had not been a customer of your store, but still coming in asking you for your help and looking for your service to get them through. Well, by offering these different types of programs and education, what you're doing is you're giving these authors an outlet to say, hey, I can't help you specifically right now, but we do have programs to educate you and teach you about what you need to know to work in the bookstore market. And what you see is the word of mouth going back out into the communities, because these authors are all part of author groups. They're all part of writers groups. They're all part of different little organizations within themselves working together. So all of a sudden they say, hey, Eagle Eye Books is a safe haven for authors to go into. They have programs in place that you can sign up for. They've got consignment programs you can sign up for. They really are there trying to help you become a better author and become more knowledgeable. Well, that word of mouth goes out into these other groups and you start seeing new customers come in. They're not just authors coming in looking for help, but they just know that that bookstore is there as a community piece and working in a capacity that it's conducive for them to come in, and they become new customers of the store. So we've definitely seen that a lot. Stores hosting author education days in collaboration with their local associations. IP&E is Independent Publishers of New England. They're great in saying that, hey, our whole premise is, as an organization, is to help publishers become more professional and to educate them on what's going on. So I was actually doing the NEBA regional about a year or two ago, and one of the booksellers stood up and said, hey, I would love to do this. I would love to be able to offer these education days, but I'm a 1 or 2 person staff store. I just don't have the bandwidth to do it. And the director of IP&E actually stood up and said, that's what we do as a profession. So if you wanted to, we are more than happy to come in and put on the education sessions within your store, using your store as the venue and bringing the foot traffic in. You don't have to do anything. So there's other organizations out there that you can team up with that are already, living the service of educating authors and just tapping into their resources and their services to come in and make your bookstore a part of their community and, a safe haven for these authors to come in and visit. So that was really cool. And she was able to really help that bookstore out by providing the programming for the store. Stores are creating notebooks and print materials relevant to their local communities. You can take somebody like Left Bank Books, who each year create, and Watermark Books as well. They create their own branded writing journals that they sell up front at the cash wrap. It may be the state flag. It may be a picture of a local landmark. And all it is just a 6x9 college rule interior book or writing composite journal that has the imagery on the front that they chose for the cover, and they're paying print cost plus shipping on these items. So now all of a sudden you've got your own journals that you're selling or notebooks that you're selling up front with imagery that's relevant to your community base, and you're only paying print cost plus shipping on these books. So if I'm buying journals or creating journals at $3 a piece and sell them at the cash wrap for $8 or $9 a piece, there's good margin in that, and it doesn't take much effort at all. All you're doing is taking an image and putting it on the cover file. Stores are building communities of local graphic artists and editors to put together their own publishing services. Village Books, there again is a great example of this, where they actually have a cottage industry of local graphic designers and local editors that they work with within Bellingham to help these authors through the process. So if I'm an author that walks into Village Books, with a manuscript in hand and says, hey, I've heard that you actually help authors get published. Can you help me? It's absolutely. Let's sit down and look at your project. And if it's a project that requires editing, Village Books then says, okay, you've got your manuscript. Now you need it properly edited. Here's 3 or 4 local editors that we work with that we know do good work. They're friends of the store. Why don't you go to one of them and see which one works best for you and get this book properly edited? And so they do. They go to this local editor that's there in their city, and they work with them to get the book edited. And then they'll come back to the store and say, okay, you know, I've got my manuscript, I've got it edited. You know, what's next? Well, now you need your cover file design. And a lot of times they either have somebody on staff, especially when a bookstore is running a full program like this, they'll typically have somebody on staff that can design the cover or create the files. But if not, then they have their local graphic designers that they will refer these folks to go get the service, just like the editors. And what you see is kind of a back and forth where that local edit, you know, it's kind of set up where, hey, you know, the local editor that I chose, I was recommended to you by Village Books. Well, then that local editor says, hey, Village Books, thank you for the business. Here is your recoup or, you know, your reimbursement for sending business my way, and vice versa, where the store may say, hey, we've got this local editor that does a lot of work that sends their authors to us once they're done to use our service packages. And so there's a little bit of, hey, thank you for that. Here's a finder's fee for doing that. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just however you feel comfortable building your own little cottage industries within your towns and communities. You have stores that are offering paid for one-on-one consultations to local authors. So a lot of times it may be just as simple as, hey, I've got an author coming in. They're taking more than 4 or 5 minutes of my time. They're obviously not here to buy anything. They're here just to get information for themselves. Like, I'm too busy to deal with this right now. I've got too much other work going on to really take time to do this. Well, what you can do as an industry professional that you are, you have more knowledge about the book industry than these folks can get anywhere else without going to a show and hearing somebody like me or, you know, paying to go to a Writer's Digest conference. Like, they have to pay and go out of their way to go to these shows and learn. Well, what we've got is we've got a lot of stores that are saying, hey, I understand that you're a local author. I understand that you're trying to learn about the industry. You know, on Sundays from 11 to 3, I have hourly sessions where I'll do a 1-hour dedicated session to talking to you about the industry. I'll share my knowledge with you. We can talk about your book. And what they're doing is they're charging an hourly rate to sit down with these folks. And what it is these authors have nowhere else to get this information. So if you tell me as an author, it's like, hey, if you come in Sunday at 11 o'clock, I'll sit down with you for an hour. We'll go full dedication to your book and educating you or talking about, you know, the best way to succeed or letting me look up your title and give you pointers on what I think would make it better. And it's $100 an hour. And you see these authors that are more than willing to pay that because there's nowhere else for them to get this education. And if they were to go out and try to find it themselves, it's going to cost them a lot more than $100 or $75 an hour to get that information. So what we're finding a lot of booksellers who are actually just taking their knowledge and making it a monetary gain for them and setting up, you know, just consultation time so that it's all just, it's uniformed and you're ready, you know, prepared for that type of day. We see stores that are bringing traditionally published titles back to life. A great example of this is Watermark Books there again in Wichita. They had a local author who was traditionally published. She did a title called Grasslands. It was a YA title. And it was a very big selling title within their school systems there. Well, the publisher who had originally published Grasslands had dissolved and had reverted the rights back to the author. So the book was no longer available for print in the market. Well, Sarah and them were still getting orders from the school system saying, hey, we want this book that we've always carried. Can we please get it? So what they did is with their publishing program that they had in place, they actually reached out to that author and said, hey, we have a high demand for Grasslands. We still have a high demand for this title, and there's nowhere else for us to get it. And that's when the author said, yes, my publisher dissolved. The rights have been reverted back. And Sarah and them said, we would love to publish your book under the Watermark Books publishing program. Author said, absolutely. So the author comes to Watermark Books. They work it out and put the book back into circulation and make the print book available again. And then they had a few hundred orders that they were able to fill immediately for the school systems there in Wichita because the book is now back available in print. Same thing happened with the Wake County Public Library. Margaret Maron is one of the founders of Sisters in Crime. She did the Deborah Knott's mystery series that everybody in North Carolina grew up reading. Well, the rights were reverted back to Margaret in the mid-90s. And so the books had not been in print since the mid-90s, but it was one of the most demanded series for the Wake County Public Library system, which was 20 different branches. So they actually reached out to Margaret, worked with her and her son to get her book back into print and back into circulation. And they were able to order 800 copies of those series of books that their patrons had been clamoring for years, right as soon as they made those books back available through Ingram Spark. And then you have stores that are offering, writing contests to their local communities. Bookworm of Edwards is a great example of this. Nicole and them every year do a spring writing contest for the youths in their area. And what it is they have a great system in place where there's a sign-up process that ends in March or April where you have to submit your work, and they have a review set up, process in place that they've kind of perfected over the years. But they just did their most recent one this year where the youth in the area actually submit their work, and the winners get put into an anthology that the bookstore creates through their publishing program. And then there's this big book launch that they do every year so that they can showcase the winners of that contest to their community. And they typically sell anywhere from 200 to 300 copies of that title every time that they do one of these book launches. And Nicole's even told me that those books that they create from that contest sell so well that they wind up moving over to the YA shelf and continue selling throughout the rest of the year. So these are very valuable books that are more than just a one-hit wonder. Here's some examples we're going to go into of stores. I just took some photos and some information from these stores' websites to kind of show you, what they're doing. This is Eagle Eye Books. So this is when they do their author education day. Jamil does a great job. Jamil's their publishing director there, and she does a great job of organizing these events and doing a day-long event and then having it culminate in an author event at night where you see here there's about 12 different authors who participated that day who each brought in, 5, 10, 12 people to see them speak, but the store fills up with customers who are then, learning about these other titles and then also in store buying other books. So it's just a lot of synergy and a lot of goodwill that goes into this. And these authors go back out into the community and talk about Eagle Eye with utmost respect and adore them because that they are there helping them out. This is Book Passage's program called Path to Publishing. Now, Book Passage, I've actually been here and spoke for Bill and them's class one Saturday, and it is by far one of the most robust author education programs I have seen from a bookstore in the country. It's a year-long process, and they have mentors in place and a mentor program where you can go in and you're teamed up with local editors that the store knows, local graphic designers, authors who have been successful, independent authors who have been successful, and you can sign up and pay and be part of the Path to Publishing program. And it really is amazing. When you go to one of their education days, the room's filled. I mean, when I was there's probably 40 or 50 authors in there just to learn from the industry experts that came in that day. I was one talking about print and distribution. They had an editor, they had a local designer just come in and share their knowledge. And it really does help these authors, and it really drives traffic into the store. There again, Nicole of Bookworm of Edwards does a great author education series, really. I went there one night and I was presenting, and it was me, an independent author that had been very successful, and then another independent author who was actually really big in the finance, who talked about how you budget your book and how you budget your publishing program. Well, Nicole actually charges per head for these sessions. So the night I was there was 22 authors in the audience who had each paid about $100 a piece to come and learn for 2 or 3 hours at this education session. Well, that's $2,200 that's sitting there in the store that's already been paid, and she's just tapping into her industry professionals that she knows to come in and teach and educate these authors. So there's definitely monetary gains that can be had from these author education sessions. This is JP Paper Cuts, and they actually have Cutlass Press. So this is an example of a bookstore that is saying, hey, we're running our own publishing program. They're not open to the local authors just to come in and take advantage of their services or use their services. they actually reach out and work with local authors that they really enjoy working with, or traditional published authors that they know that have projects that are not being picked up by their houses. And so what they're doing is they're offering their publishing services to these chosen authors and creating books that they want to create and that do sell in store. Another example of a full, robust program is Politics and Prose. You can see here, this is an old screenshot. Their website's since been updated, but you see here the type of service packages that they're offering to their local authors, saying, hey, you know, here's our base package at $99. Here's our most expensive package at $600. And those packages include, you know, promoting the book on their website, promoting the book in their newsletter, giving them deals on the consignment program. So there's just a lot of different attributes that you all do on a regular basis that you can monetize for these independent authors. There again, they have nowhere else to kind of get this help and get this support. Village Books, again, this is their publishing program. All these screenshots you're seeing can be found online under the publishing programs tab for each of these bookstores. So they are opened up. One thing about Village Books that's really cool is Paul and them got on a call with Eagle Eye Books because they were really interested in the way that Jamil and them at Eagle Eye were running their consignment program and monetizing it without even having the book sales for its placement on shelves, placement in store. And what happened is after this conversation, Paul actually rearranged his store, and he took the local author section that was on the third floor, bottom shelf at the back of the store, and moved it to the front, to the very front column that you see right when you walk in the store. And they charge a certain rate. Don't hold me to it, but it could be like $20 a month or $20 per 3 months to have that book sit on the shelf. And these authors are willing to pay it because that's product placement for them. So anytime the only deal is anytime the book sells, the bookstore re-ups and, you know, restocks the shelf when the book sells. But they're also making money on these books sitting on the shelf as a product placement. So there's definitely a lot of different things and avenues that you can tap into to make these indie authors worth your time and your effort and worth the money that they're spending too for themselves. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it over to Sylvie and let her talk about Bookshop Santa Cruz. So the next couple slides are the web where I went to their website and pulled the pages down from their publishing program. And what we're going to do is kind of walk through these a little bit. And then we have some questions that Sylvie's going to address about how she got started into this and, you know, how they've made it successful. So Sylvie, if you'd like to go ahead.
Hi, everybody. We've got a very, very robust publishing program. It's now in its 8th year. We launched in around 2012, and it really started out of our consignment program and the growth of that. We took a look at one quarter where we realized we had about 700 local authors actively using the program kind of at any given time. It's since grown to about 1,200. We started expanding on that program and offering a promotional package where we would do newsletter listings, special shelf talkers, priority placement in the new and recommended section for the genre of the books, and just really realized, why aren't we printing these as well or helping them get them printed and laid out? Not just as another revenue stream, which it is, and it has been really great to have that, but also sort of as a community service. We reach out to a lot of nonprofits and schools. We've worked with the Santa Cruz Public Library, UCSC professors, nonprofits like the Friends of the State Parks. So it also tied in as a really great fundraising for those organizations and a way for us to get more books in the store of local interest. As Josh mentioned, niche books do very well for us. We have a sort of a local interest kind of history/travel section that there are books that have sold for years. Occasionally we'll identify some of those that have gone out of print and approach the authors and say, hey, you know, would you want us to help you bring this back in? And there's been several titles that we've done that with that have done phenomenal. So it really kind of, it hit the mark for us on a lot of different levels.
Can you go into some of these questions that we've laid out here for anybody who is interested in tapping their foot into the publishing pool, or maybe consider getting started but wasn't really sure how to get started with their program, and just kind of tell them, you know, you've told why you did it, but like what steps did you take and how did you figure out your process for implementing this program within the store?
Yeah, I think the first step was kind of identifying what local authors would need. You know, there's so many print-on-demand options out there and ebook services, and just realizing that that process can be really overwhelming for authors. You know, they've spent sometimes maybe a decade writing a book, and now they have to put on this other hat of graphic designer and marketer and all of these other things that they may not have the expertise in and may not want to either. So the first thing was kind of identifying what they needed. Layout and graphic design was kind of number one. Things like editing is something we realized that they would need, but we probably wouldn't be able to provide. So we kind of put feelers out to folks in the community who do offer those sort of services that we can make recommendations to. And again, just kind of locating the institutions that we thought also might really benefit from using a program like this, primarily schools and nonprofits, and just really built our packages around that. We, very similar to the politics and prose slide that was up before, we have these all-inclusive packages where we will handle everything. We will help you with cover design, interior design, registering your ISBN, all the way through to doing a little marketing with our consignment program. And then we have tons of a la carte services. We have lots of seasoned pros who come in and they're working on their 10th mystery novel, and they have the graphic designer that they like to work with, and they really just want to come in and utilize our program. They may not want to sign up for an Ingram account themselves, so they would like to use ours. And just be able to give us a call and say, hey, I need another run of 100 books, and we put that order in for them, keep some for ourselves, and then hand the rest on to them. So just identifying what the different needs of the authors were and having a really flexible program for all levels of author.
And that's a really good point that you bring up there that Village Books always talks about, especially when Paul does these speaking engagements with me, is that what he's found is that 50% of the authors, want to do it themselves, and the other half don't want to do any of it themselves. So what they're having is they have kind of a two-path process that you can go down. So once you've had your, gone through the process and gone through their service packages of having the book edited and print files designed and cover designed, and now the book's ready for print, what they're finding is some authors saying, hey, I want to open my own Ingram Spark account and I want to be able to do it myself, be the publisher, and go on my own from here. And so what they used to do at Village Books was they would say, okay, and they would sit down with them for 40 minutes or so to an hour and walk them through how to open their Ingram Spark account. Well, there again, to me, that's a paid for consultation that you're not going to get anywhere else. Even at Ingram Spark, our customer support team is there to make sure orders are getting where they need to go and that files are processed. So there's no consultants there. They're going to sit down with these authors and walk them through the process. So what I mentioned to Brendan, who's the publishing director at the time at Village Books, is said, hey, instead of just doing this out of the kindness of your heart, why don't you monetize this and say, hey, we charge by the hour and I'll sit down with you. I'll help you open your account. I'll show you how to upload the files, and I'll show you how to place orders so that when you leave here, you're going to be proficient in managing your own account. And there again, he started with $100 per hour, and he felt like that was a little much. So he made it $100 per hour and a half that he would sit with these authors, walk them through getting everything up and running, and then answer any other kind of questions they may have about the industry, and then send them on their way. And then the other half of that group again was, hey, I'm an author. I've got the book written. You all helped me get it created. Now I just want to get the books whenever I need them. I don't want to have to worry about doing anything myself. So when those authors, just like Sylvie mentioned, those authors will call in and say, hey, I need 20 books sent here, or I need 40 books sent here. And what the store can do is they can go into their Ingram Spark account, place an order for those books and have them printed and shipped wherever they need to go for that author, and then charge an upcharge of $1 or $2 per unit on those books. So for instance, if I'm charging $1 up per unit for placing the order for these authors, then all of a sudden the author is getting, 50 books sent here. All I did was go into my account or into the author's account, depending on how you've got it set up, place the order, the printing and shipping was paid for, and then there's that extra 50 bucks that I made for just taking an order. So all I did was literally take an order and place it And in this scenario, I made an extra $50. Sylvie, something that really fascinates me is when I hear you all talk, especially you, and I know that you were a big help in teaching politics and prose about how to set up their program, is the consignment piece, how you work it into your consignment program and the different kind of tiers that you offer based on the engagement the author has with the store.
Yeah. So we try and really keep the program just to sort of Bay Area, and we're a little bit loose on that aspect. But that's really sort of the biggest requirement, is that they have it's kind of local, and then we sort of have 3 levels of engagement. The first being just sort of our basic enrollment. It's a $25 fee for a 6-month contract. 60-40 split. We'll pay 60% of the retail price to the author. And that basically just gets your book in the store on the shelf and on our website. So it can be ordered online. From there, we have another package that's $75 in addition to the $25. That's our promotional package. And that includes highlighting the book over the course of about 3 months. Kind of spread it out so the book is constantly getting highlighted in a different way every couple of weeks. We put it in the new and recommended section for its genre for at least 2 to 3 weeks. We'll create a special shelf talker with a description provided by the author. We'll put it on our one of our monthly online newsletters, which goes out to I think it's like up to 20,000 people right now. So it's really nice big push for them. And then we also, because we realized we do make some money off of the printing here, and that was one of the, I don't want to say obstacles, but one of the puzzle pieces we had to figure out with creating the problem was not pricing ourselves out of just having someone go and getting the book printed themselves. So for folks who use our publishing services and are enrolled in our consignment program, we offer them extra 20% on the royalties. So we actually end up paying them 80% of their retail price. So we do make a little bit of money on that printing and on the publishing package. We want them to feel good about, that we're not just there to make money off of them,
That's awesome. I really do think that's awesome.
I have a question in the chat. How does the pricing scale work for print on demand? Page count, I assume, if illustrations or art are included within the content, there's an added charge?
Yeah, so the way that the pricing works, without even having an Ingram Spark account, we have our calculators that are located on the website that'll tell you exactly what it costs to print a book based off the specifications that you put in. So if you go to ingramspark.com and click on pricing and scroll to the middle of the page where it says calculate the cost of your book and click that link, what it'll do is actually take you to our printing and shipping calculator. And all you do is plug in those book specifications and we'll tell you right then and there what it would cost to print that book. So the very first choice you're going to have is trim size. And we go from 4x6 all the way up to 8.5 by 11. We have squared and landscape options as well. So you would choose your trim size. Then you're going to choose whether it's a black and white or color interior book. All covers are color, so that's already calculated in. But if it's a children's book or a photo book, obviously you're going to choose a color interior option. Or if it's a memoir or a novel that's been written, obviously you're going to choose the black and white option for the interior. Then the very next choice you have is paperback or hardcover, whether you want the book, obviously to be paperback or hardcover, that's the next option you choose. And then the next option you choose is gloss or matte. So we have 2 different cover finishes that we offer, either the slick gloss cover or that, more tacky matte or tactical matte fill cover. Both of them cost the exact same. Basically, you're just choosing preference there. Then the next thing you'll enter is page count. So, whatever the page count is above 18 pages, we can print all the way up to 1,200 pages. And so you'll enter those book specifications. You'll put in your quantity with print on demand. Obviously, you can order all the way down to 1. You can order 1, you can order 500, you can order 10,000, however many you need, but all the way down to a print quality or quantity of 1. And then you'll put the shipping address for where you would like that order print and shipped and hit calculate. And we'll tell you right then and there, based off the specifications that you entered for the book, what it would cost per unit to print that book. And like I said earlier, it's free to open the Ingram Spark account. Typically, the rack rate for uploading a title is $49 one-time fee per print book files and a $25 one-time fee per ebook file. But at the very last slide, you'll see here is I'm going to give you a promo code that's Bookstore, one word, all caps. And what that does is actually waives those title setup fees. So with that promo code, it is free for you to open your account, free for you to set up your titles within Ingram Spark. And at that point, you would never pay us anything until you actually ordered books for yourself. That promo code Bookstore I also created for booksellers to give to authors who come in looking for help. You may not have a program at all and may not be interested in creating a program, but if that author comes in, you can at least point them to Ingram Spark and say, hey, we don't have a solution for you, but these folks at Ingram, Ingram Spark do. And actually, since you came in as a thank you for, taking the time to come in and ask us about this, here's a promo code, Bookstore, all caps. And what that'll do is same thing for you as it does for the authors. It'll waive those title setup fees. And so basically it saves that author $50 per print book that they upload that you gave them as a thank you for coming into the store. So we've gone over a lot, and I know we're getting short on time, so I want to take any other questions we do have. But there's another project that I wanted to mention that I found really interesting that I didn't mention earlier, talking about stores creating their own content. Kimberly at the Country Bookshop in North Carolina does a great job with her publishing program. There again, she is not open to the community taking on any local authors that want to come in. They handpick the projects of the authors that they want to create the books for, whether it was a local newspaper writer who they know is retiring and has a ton of content, or a local hero that has a story that they want to be able to tell. They'll actually work and handpick the projects that they want to do. But the cool thing is that they did is they actually got together with the 11 other independent bookstores in North Carolina and created a calendar. All they did was take an 8.5 by 11 paperback and flip the interior format so that you would open the book, landscape wise instead of, horizontal wise. And what happened is they highlighted every single one of these independent bookstores in the calendar. So each month, the top of the calendar page, it was a picture of that store, and that month was dedicated to highlighting that store. And then they actually went through and, earmarked throughout the calendar, big literary events or authors' birthdays or like famous North Carolina authors' birthdays throughout the calendar, which was just a really cool piece of material that she created to sell at the cash wrap that didn't cost her much to print at all. So, I mean, there again, she's got this beautiful product that did not cost much to print. It is extremely focused on the independent bookstores there in North Carolina. And all the bookstores that were participating in that calendar, they could either order the book from Ingram through iPage on the regular Ingram order, or they would just call the Country Bookshop and let them know how many units they needed. And the Country Bookshop could place an order for that store through their account and then just charge the store whatever it is they were going to charge them. But when Sylvie mentioned niche earlier, that's one of the things I love that Kimberly talks about is when she does these special projects, like I said, a local writer that's retiring or a local hero story they want to tell, she calls these super niche content. Because she knows that, hey, this book will not sell outside of Southern Pines, more than likely not, but I know that it will sell in Southern Pines, North Carolina, because this is what my customer base is interested in. And so she's got a few projects that right out the gate, they sell 200, 300, 400 copies of that book in store. But the cool thing about that is there again, they're only paying print cost plus shipping on these projects and books that they're creating. So I was actually talking to their receiver one day, and she said, I know when it's one of our publishing program books come in because it's got about 80 to 85% margin built into that title. And we can see it in the sales and we can see it in our inventory tracking. So there again, you're creating much higher margin per unit sell than a book that you would normally just buy through traditional methods, through wholesale and even publisher direct orders as well. So I think we're about out of time. These are some books I wanted to highlight. So Sylvie, if you want to go through and just kind of give a call out to some of these books. Sylvie actually chose these books to be part of the program, and these are books that they've created at Bookshop Santa Cruz.
Yeah, these are sort of some great examples of the way our program has been successful for us. The first one is Lori R. King's Beginnings book. We're super lucky to have Lori not only as a local author, but as a regular in the store. And for the past few Christmases, she's put out these sort of fan novellas as a thank you to her fan base. And we've had the opportunity to put about 3 of those out. It's worked really great for her and for us. It's an exclusive that we have. The same with the Friends of the State Park store, they had this great book about the Castro Adobe that was about to become a state park. They had a big fundraiser coming up. This book had originally come out about 20 years ago, had gone out of print, and they approached us to help put out an anniversary edition. Worked really great. They printed about 1,000 copies, sold them over the course of a few weeks leading up to this this big event that they were having as it got its state park. Sorry, as it got designated a state park. So that was a really great talking point for them and for us. A lot of these work just not as great books, but also as word of mouth for us. You know, when people go to these events or fans of these authors, they want to know how these books came about. And then Bookshop Santa Cruz is mentioned. So I get a lot of customers that have picked up these books and seen them and liked the projects. The Easy Artisan Cookbook is a Cabrillo College culinary instructor. She sort of uses this as an extended business card. It helps students find her class and gets the word out there about her business. And again, works really great. You know, she always mentions where she's gotten it printed. The bottom right-hand one, the Adventures of the Salty Little Sliders, again, it was a collaboration between one of our local surf shops and an elementary school teacher who also happens to be a street artist. So it was just a really great melding of all of these things, you know, local business and you know, for book lovers as well. So we look at a lot of these projects as not just making a book, but also as extended marketing for our program. And word of mouth is really kind of been our best advertising over the years.
One of the things that impresses me so much about all of this, I mean, you are lucky to have Lori King and all of that, but those self-published people are the people that are trying to publish, and you have the answers. You booksellers have the answers to this, and you can make money from this, from your knowledge, and help them create a really great project, or at least channel it to the right slot. You know, do you want to publish this just for your family reunion? Do you want to do this for a school fundraiser? Do you want to, you know, there's so many opportunities, and we have the knowledge to guide these people down the right path and to create something really wonderful and to make money from it. I mean, that's the thing that you can't let go of. Your knowledge is worth something, and don't just give it away.
Absolutely. And Andy, bring up a really great point that, I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years now. And so, and working with print on demand and self-publishers and bookstores as well. And one of the things that I have learned, and it always blows my mind when I go and do a guest speaking engagement, especially for a room full of authors, is that the very basic knowledge, the things that we consider basic industry knowledge that we talk about every day and take for granted that we know about the book industry, is extremely advanced knowledge to these folks who know nothing about it, who know nothing about the industry. They're coming in with no background, no nothing. I mean, talking about a regular discount and returnability and why that's important. I mean, I can do that for 20 minutes in front of a group of authors, and it never fails to stun them that this is information that they just do not know about and don't know why it's important until they actually hear it. So you may think, oh, I don't know a whole lot. You do. You know a whole lot, and you should definitely be monetizing that information as you can.
Your paperback picture books include a spine?
Yes. So anything over 18 pages, we can include a spine. So the books that you actually see on the screen right now are all created by Bookstores. You've got some JP Paper Cuts books in there. You've got, I can't remember if that's Townie or Rediscovered. That may be Townie's books, where the owner of the bookstore is the author of these books, the Totally Ninja Raccoon series, and they sell a ton in store. And I can't, his name escaped me right now, but the owner of the store is actually the author and creator of the series. The books you see down in the bottom right are from one Tom Bryant. That's the book, one of the books that Kimberly at Country Bookshop did. So all these are paperbacks. And yes, everything that we print is printed professionally. So there are spines. Anything you put in those print files are on there. And it's not just self-publishers that are using us. So Lightning Source is our print-on-demand division of Ingram.
All the big five publishers, all of the traditional publishers that are out there, all the medium and major size publishers use our printing capabilities as well. So the book is going to be as professionally printed and is going to look as professionally as it can based on the file designs that you submit. So it's not that the process or any of the products we're putting out are inferior. It just depends on the person that created the books and how professional they were in creating those print files. But like I said, all the traditional publishers use us. We have over 80,000 publishers that use us on a daily basis to get their books printed and shipped around the world.
I know you don't provide editorial design services, but are there any templates to be accessed?
So we actually, yes. So we don't, so traditionally we do not offer editorial or design. So what we do actually have is we have a list of companies listed on the Ingram Spark website. So if you go to ingramspark.com, click on resources and the experts, what we have there is a list of companies who specifically do services that we do not offer. These are companies we vetted, we know they're non-predatory, and they know what kind of work we expect at Ingram for them to provide and what kind of service we expect them to provide to their customer base. So if you needed help with editing or cover design or marketing and sales and publicity, or you have copyright questions, you can go to that page and see service providers for each of those different categories that we have vetted and that you can reach out to for help. We did just recently this year release Book Builder. So some of you who have ever been in Ingram Spark or talked to an Ingram Spark author may have heard of Book Builder. And that is an actual formatting tool that we've developed in-house. It took us 5 or 6 years to create it, and we've just rolled it out to the public, where you can go in and upload a Word doc to the Book Builder tool and have it completely break the interior of the book out. It does the page breaks, it does the chapter headings, it does the pagination. You can upload your cover images and create the cover file. So we do now have this tool that you can actually go in with a Word doc or start from scratch and start writing your book within the tool. Choose the templated layout that you want. We've got a ton of different layouts for the interior of the book, and the cover, you can move the different images around. It's a really cool formatting tool that you can use yourselves to go in and create these print-ready files. So once you go through the Book Builder tool, you just hit export, and what it does is it spits out a PDF file that's ready for print in Ingram.
Yeah. Another comment, I imagine you get some pretty poorly created PDF files. And you know, because when we were in CIBA, we did a rep directory using Lightning Source anyway. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, it was pretty easy. And you do get the option to get a sample, to pay for a sample and all of that.
So creating the files is definitely the toughest part. That's the highest skill set that's there. I mean, I don't have that skill set, unfortunately. I could not create a print file without using the Book Builder tool. But yeah, so you do have poor PDF files that are created. So what happens is once you upload those files to your account, we process those. And if they pass printing specifications, then we can print the book. Now, whether the cover design's really great or the copy edit is really great, that's up to whoever created the book itself. But as long as those files pass specifications, then yes, we can print those. And you are correct. So when you upload those files and they process and they're ready to print, before you make that book available to the world, I highly recommend ordering, 1, 2, 3 copies for yourself, just to look over, make sure there's no, just glaring errors, or your spine's not out of variance, or your cover's not off center. You go through and order a couple copies before you actually start turning it on and making it available to the world for purchase.
Yeah, it's something you can build into your publishing packages too. All of our packages come with a half-hour consultation that I do with the authors. And I extend this to pretty much anybody who's interested in our program, to take a look at their files and kind of, give some suggestions about how they can make it more professional if it's their first time doing this and they're not graphic designers. So there's a way to kind of get around that as well, to kind of nudge them in the right direction.
I've hit you with a lot of information today, especially within an hour span, and Sylvie too. She's got a wealth of information about their program. So if you do have any further questions or would like to hear other stories about what bookstores are doing, or any type of feedback that you want to give or information that you need, please don't hesitate to email me directly at the email address that you see there, josh.floyd@ingramcontent.com. And there again, you see the Bookstore all caps promo code that will waive title setup fees at Ingram Spark, making it free to upload your print files and your ebook files.
Thank you so much, both Josh and Sylvie. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for having us and participating today.